Within the next minutes, you will witness a case study so brutal, so horrifyingly revealing that it will shatter your romanticized illusions of loyalty and sacrifice. We will descend into the hellscape of 1665 London, not through the eyes of kings or generals, but through the secret, unvarnished diaries of those who lived and died through the Great Plague. The proof lies in the ink-stained pages of their desperation, a hidden record of what women truly do when the structures of society collapse and the feminine imperative is unleashed, unchecked by judgment or consequence. The benefit for you will finally understand the primal, often dark drivers of behavior that lie dormant just beneath the thin veneer of modern life. This knowledge is not pessimistic, it is protective. It is the ultimate black pill forged not in philosophy books, but in the fire of real human suffering. The scent of death was a physical presence in London. It was a thick, sweet, and putrid perfume that seeped through closed shutters, clung to woolen clothes, and lodged itself in the back of the throat, a constant choking reminder that God had seemingly turned his back on the city. This was the Great Plague of 1665, the last and most violent onslaught of the Black Death in England. London was a city under siege from an invisible enemy. It crept through alleyways, seeped beneath doors, and struck without mercy. Families barricaded themselves inside their homes, convinced isolation would save them. Red crosses were painted on doors where plague victims lived, alongside the chilling words, "Lord, have mercy upon us." Yet mercy rarely came. Death moved faster than prayer. Church bells tolled endlessly, marking the passing of souls until there were so many dead the bells fell silent. Graves overflowed. Carts piled high with corpses rattled down cobblestone streets. But within this chaos, another story unfolded, a hidden story. Diaries carefully preserved reveal what truly happens to loyalty, morality, and love when society itself begins to rot from within. In one such diary, written by a London merchant, a shocking confession appears. He wrote of his wife, who in the early days of the plague swore eternal devotion, but as sickness spread and resources grew scarce, her tone changed. When he fell ill, he recorded, "She ceased to speak to me, ceased to touch me. She left my bed and slept elsewhere." The vows of in sickness and in health dissolved under the weight of survival. Another entry, from a widow named Margaret, lays bare an even darker truth. She wrote, "I feared death, yet I feared hunger more." Her husband had succumbed to the plague, yet she remarried within a fortnight. Not for love, but for security. A healthy, wealthy man offered her safety and food, and she accepted without hesitation. These accounts strip bare the fragile illusions of romantic loyalty when survival instincts take command. Historians long ignored these confessions, preferring noble tales of sacrifice and devotion. But the diaries tell a different, unpolished reality. When systems break down, primal drives resurface. Women sought protection, resources, and survival above all else. Men, meanwhile, fought not only against disease but against the slow erosion of trust, struggling to reconcile promises made in calmer times with brutal new realities. One physician's journal speaks of a nobleman's household, where servants abandoned their masters the moment plague symptoms appeared. "Better to flee than be buried," he wrote bitterly. Even gold could not buy loyalty when survival hung in the balance. In a city of death, love, duty, and status crumbled like rotting wood. All that remained was instinct, the raw drive to endure another day. Another chilling passage comes from a nun in Southwark. "I believed my vows unbreakable," she wrote, "but the plague has revealed me." She confessed abandoning the sick in her convent, locking herself in a private chamber while others perished outside. Here we see not wickedness but truth. When stripped of structure, humans, men and women alike, often betray ideals for survival. But perhaps the most shocking revelations came from a midwife's diary. Her records detail how, as death claimed husbands, brothers, and fathers, women strategically attached themselves to healthier men with food, wealth, or social standing, not always out of desire, but calculation. "Affection bends where bread is plentiful," she wrote coldly. Love was not absent, but it was transactional, shaped by survival and scarcity. These accounts are disturbing because they expose a truth modern society hides. Morality is often circumstantial. Stability allows us the luxury of idealism. Remove that stability and primal drives rise to the surface. We'd like to believe we are loyal, virtuous, and selfless. But the plague diaries whisper otherwise. Under pressure, instinct often drowns principle. This is not cynicism, it's survival psychology. And here lies the lesson for men. Do not mistake conditional behavior for unconditional love. Much of what we call loyalty functions only within specific environmental contexts. During stability, many appear faithful. But when chaos strikes, when resources dwindle, when security collapses, the calculus shifts. Attraction and devotion often follow strength, provision, and safety, not romantic ideals. This doesn't mean love is fake. It means love is contingent, bound by unspoken biological imperatives. Women historically prioritize security for themselves and their offspring. In a world without safety nets, this wasn't greed, it was survival. The plague simply stripped away societal illusions, revealing ancient patterns written deep into human behavior. These instincts still operate today, masked by modern comforts. Even modern neuroscience supports what the plague diaries imply. MRI scans show that when fear, scarcity, and mortality become dominant, the brain's survival systems override higher reasoning. Loyalty, morality, and even empathy can diminish when survival is at stake. What happened in 1665 wasn't unique, it was human nature unmasked. The players change, but the code remains the same. One historian described the period as a great unveiling. It exposed the fragile scaffolding of society and the truths we prefer not to confront. Every generation wants to believe they're different, more evolved, more moral. Yet crises, whether plagues or economic collapse, reveal continuity. Our psychology hasn't changed. The feminine imperative remains, and so does the male struggle to understand it. This isn't about blaming women. Men too abandoned families, deserted cities, and betrayed oaths during the plague. But the diaries highlight a sobering imbalance. Men often die for ideals, women historically survive by adapting. Men gamble with sacrifice, women hedge with security. Different strategies, same goal, continuation of the bloodline. Understanding this difference isn't bitterness, it's clarity. If you ignore these truths, you walk blind into dynamics that shape relationships to this day. The diaries don't just describe 1665 London. They describe patterns still operating beneath the surface of modern dating, marriage, and social contracts. The language has changed, technology has advanced, but human drives are ancient, relentless, and largely indifferent to cultural narratives. Men who understand this hold power, others don't. You stop expecting fantasy and start dealing with reality. You stop mistaking conditional affection for unconditional loyalty. You see beneath the romantic veneer into the biological and psychological machinery guiding behavior. And when you see clearly, you're less likely to be manipulated, exploited, or destroyed by illusions. This isn't about paranoia, it's about preparedness. The plague stripped away illusions violently. You have the luxury of stripping them away intellectually. Study human nature, not as you wish it to be, but as it is. See the patterns, understand the drivers, and adapt accordingly. In a world built on stories, those who see beneath the narrative are free. In times of chaos, illusions die quickly. The plague didn't create selfishness, it revealed it. It didn't destroy loyalty, it tested its limits. And as the diaries show, those limits were often closer than we'd like to admit. Understanding this isn't meant to make you bitter. It's meant to make you awake, alert, and aware of how fragile social contracts really are when survival is on the line. Look around today. We live in relative comfort, but comfort breeds amnesia. We forget what happens when systems break, when scarcity arrives, when fear rules decisions. History whispers warnings that few want to hear. Morality without stability is a fragile illusion. Remove the safety nets and ancient survival codes roar back to life. Silent, automatic, unstoppable. If you've ever wondered why relationships shift when circumstances change, the Plague Diaries provide answers. When security is abundant, love feels unconditional, but remove that security and everything recalibrates. Choices once dressed in morality are exposed as calculations of survival. Understanding this frees you, not to distrust, but to see clearly, to navigate relationships without blind idealism. The London Plague may seem distant, but the psychology it exposed remains hardwired into us. Technology changes behavior at the surface, but not at the root. Scarcity still drives loyalty. Power still attracts devotion. Safety still governs desire. Pretending otherwise leaves you vulnerable. Seeing the truth arms you with understanding that others lack. Knowledge becomes protection. In the end, the lesson is simple but hard to accept. Human behavior is conditional. Love, loyalty, morality, they exist, but only within stable frameworks. Break those frameworks and instinct reclaims the throne. The Plague Diaries aren't a history lesson. They are a mirror held to our nature. They show us who we are when no one is watching, and nothing is guaranteed. To know this is not to despair, it is to awaken. To understand the drivers beneath the stories we tell ourselves gives you power. It allows you to move through the world with clarity instead of delusion, with strategy instead of blind trust. This isn't cynicism. This is survival intelligence. The same intelligence your ancestors used to endure plagues, wars, and collapse. And so we return to London, 1665, to the stench-filled streets, the boarded houses, the desperate diaries. Not to gawk at tragedy, but to witness human nature unmasked. These records speak to us across centuries, warning us. Understand people not as they pretend to be, but as they are when stripped of comfort. See that clearly, and you will never be easily deceived again. The Black Death ended, but the truths it revealed didn't die with it. They remain encoded in us, shaping choices, relationships, and desires, even in the age of smartphones and social media. We are modern, but we are not new. Underneath the facade, the same drives rule us. To ignore this is to repeat the mistakes of the past, walking blind into traps our ancestors already mapped out. If you take anything from these diaries, take this. Stop expecting human nature to match your ideals. It rarely does. Build strategies, not fantasies. Choose awareness over denial. Learn how loyalty actually works, how desire actually operates, and how survival imperatives silently guide behavior. Knowledge protects you. Illusions destroy you. The plague survivors learned this the hard way. Now you know. You've seen the hidden record, the unvarnished diaries, the truths most historians gloss over. Use them. Understand them. Let them shape how you see the world. Because one day, whether through crisis, scarcity, or chaos, the thin layer of stability around us will crack. When it does, you'll be ready. Others won't. That's the difference between blindness and power. Knowledge isn't meant to make you paranoid. It's meant to make you prepared. When you understand the forces driving human behavior, you stop being surprised when people act according to instinct, not ideals. You learn to read beneath the surface, to anticipate shifts, and to protect yourself emotionally, financially, and psychologically when circumstances change around you. The Plague Diaries are a warning disguised as history. They remind us that beneath every promise, every vow, and every romantic story is a biological program millions of years old. A program that prioritizes survival above morality, instinct above ideology. Those who refuse to see this are left vulnerable. Those who accept it adapt and thrive no matter what chaos the world throws their way. Ask yourself, if everything you rely on vanished tomorrow, your income, your status, your stability, how would the people around you react? The Plague Diaries show us the answer. Not the answer we want, but the answer we need. People adapt, people shift. Affection bends, morality cracks. Survival above all commands loyalty. It was true in 1665, and it's just as true now. This isn't about fear, it's about freedom. The more clearly you see human nature, the less you cling to comforting illusions that can shatter overnight. You stop expecting perfection and start strategizing for reality. You become resilient, not because you're cynical, but because you understand the game everyone's already playing, whether they admit it or not. Awareness is power. Men who master this understanding stop living reactively. They no longer gamble on blind trust, hoping loyalty will survive any storm. Instead, they build structures, boundaries, and strategies designed for the real world, not the ideal one. They respect human nature as it is, not as society pretends it to be. And because of that, they stop losing where others keep repeating history. The Diaries of 1665 London weren't meant to teach you this, but they do. Between the ink-stained lines and whispered confessions lies the truth about love, loyalty, and survival. The plague tore away the masks people wore, and what was revealed wasn't evil, it was human. To deny this is to set yourself up for heartbreak. To accept it is to step into clarity, strength, and control. In a world built on narratives, most people choose comforting lies over difficult truths. But history favors those who see clearly. It rewards the few who prepare while others dream. The plague survivors left us more than a record of death. They left a map of behavior, a blueprint for understanding the hidden drivers behind choices, attraction, and devotion. Few ever read it. Now you have. You've walked the streets of plague-ridden London through their eyes. You've seen what happens when society fractures, when scarcity dominates, and when instinct governs choice. The lesson isn't despair, the lesson is readiness. The illusion of unconditional loyalty dissolves under pressure. What remains isn't hopelessness, it's a chance to act from knowledge, not fantasy. The next time someone tells you love is absolute, remember the Diaries. The next time you hear loyalty is forever, remember 1665. And the next time you build relationships, do so with awareness, not resentment but understanding. Build your strength, your independence, and your resources so that loyalty chooses you naturally rather than out of necessity. That is real power. History whispers, but few listen. The Diary spoke of betrayal, survival, instinct, and strategy, not to make you hopeless, but to make you prepared. You cannot change human nature, but you can learn to work with it instead of against it. See clearly, choose wisely. And remember this, when stability shatters, the game changes. Those who understand the rules win. Those who don't perish. Before we close, remember, these pages were written by survivors, not saints. Some recorded mercy amidst terror, neighbors lowering bread by rope, nurses staying beside the dying with no witness. Outliers don't erase the pattern, but they remind us the human animal contains both predator and protector. Read the Diaries as a lens, not a verdict. See clearly yet leave room for courage. Translate lesson into action. Build redundancy in body, craft, and community. Learn skills that travel. Repair, first aid, clear speech under pressure. Keep reserves of cash and character. Choose allies by reliability, not rhetoric. Lead with steadiness so fear doesn't appoint your choices. Sovereignty isn't isolation. It's the capacity to stand firm while you choose who stands with you. Fortify the mind. Integrate your shadow so panic finds no open door. Practices: daily journaling, cold honesty about motives, memento mori, physical training, voluntary hardship, and promises you keep when no one is watching. Reduce dependence on praise. Increase tolerance for discomfort. Train the default, not the exception. For in crisis we do not rise, we fall to our routines. In love, design for reality. Vet for character revealed in small stresses before large ones. Watch patterns, not promises. Prefer partners who choose responsibility over drama, reciprocity over extraction. Set boundaries that protect both people from their worst impulses. Build a shared mission so devotion anchors to more than feelings. Warmth thrives when structure holds. Run the drill. Imagine 90 days of scarcity. Power unstable, markets erratic, headlines untrustworthy. Who do you call? Who calls you? What duties won't you outsource? What lines won't you cross? Decide now, document now, practice now. In the fog, you won't rise to hopes, you'll fall to preparation. Make that floor strong. Next, we move from exposure to reconstruction. You've seen the mask torn away. Now build a life that needs fewer masks, stable, sovereign, humane. In the following chapter, we turn principles into protocols. Selection, standards, crisis contracts, and the discipline of compassion. The goal isn't hardness, it's clarity. Strength without bitterness, mercy without naivety,